Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here to talk to you about My Hero Academia, manga chapter 248, titled One by One. And now I want to get to the chase because I have actually recorded this video several times over. A lot of things has happened. So with that out the way, I should get right into this chapter, starting off with the cover page, which just shows the three main girls with El Chaco, Uraraka, Hado, and the Dragon Lady. The theory that I have with this is that basically each cover page is basically going to cover the students of 1A and exactly what they did over their winter break. So hopefully we'll look forward to that. But getting back into what happens with the first few panels, basically we have just Deku going back over the fact that he has basically only had his quirk for a year and a half. He has only spent this time training it up while everyone else has basically been learning the limits of it, which causes him to basically subconsciously do all of this subconsciously while making him think that he has to master this quickly, which is both good and bad. Being able to subconsciously control your quirk is amazing, but later on in the chapter what we learn is that trying to master it all at once will only lead to failure, really. So with that out of the way, we also get kind of like an understanding of Endeavor as a hero because he stops a Present Mike looking villain on a motorcycle by blocking off his entrance into the main freeway area where there will probably be a lot of citizens that he could harm, and he was able to do that because he was able to concentrate his flames pretty much instantaneously to prevent him from going away and doing all of that harm, stopping the villain immediately. And because he was able to do that so quickly, Shota basically makes a comment about Bakugo. Is like, hey, did you notice that? And Bakugo, big Baku, was like, shut up! Basically, it's like, oh yeah, I noticed that. And like how he's like mad. It's like, the only reason why he did that is because it's winter time and I was too slow. But Shoto basically explains how Endeavor was able to do that because he was basically able to concentrate his flames. Basically the point at which like it was so concentrated that it was able to push him forward while going full force to stop the enemy. And Endeavor makes the comment of like, yeah, I did that because I blocked his way of getting to the street. And Deku comes to the realization like, oh, he did it to block the entrance. But while he's thinking about that, Endeavor has already left them behind. And he basically gives them like the first lesson because a lot of this chapter is just Endeavor giving these children lessons about being a hero, which is that, yes, even though I had Hawks help me when he fought off that Nobu, the first thing that he has to know about a hero is being able to take down the villains by yourself, basically. Being able to do it on your own. And then he also talks to him as like, yeah, and by the way, y'all kids may be fast. And he even like makes reference to Bakugo. He's like, by the way, Bakugo, your mobility, really good, really excellent. For a rookie, which irritates Bakugo, but then Endeavor comes on his second time and is like, yeah, you're fast, but you have to realize that you are heroes. And yes, if you're not fast enough in school or you're not strong enough in school, you may lose points. But in the real world, you will be losing. And while he's saying that, he blocks a truck with his fire, bringing it to a halt, protecting a lady. He's like, you mess up in the real world, you're risking people's lives. And like, he brings on like this, like he basically tells him like, yo, y'all have to be faster, because if you're not faster, it's not your grades that are going to suffer, it's going to be people. So that just shows how great of a hero Endeavor actually is and how he's able to understand his job so well. It also shows that he can be a good teacher to these kids because he has all of this experience that he can share with them. So that's another lesson. So that's two lessons that Endeavor has taught these kids with relatively within the span of like a few minutes within the context of the story. And while he's teaching these lessons, he's also giving the kids homework. Specifically Shoto and Bakugo, he's like, yo, I have an assignment for y'all. What y'all gotta do is you have to do one of these two things. You have to learn how to do a storage release, or you have to learn how to condense your power. And basically that's in reference to either you have to like be able to like store your energy up and release all of your energy within like a big burst, but do it like almost instantaneously without hesitation, or being able to condense that power into a small point, similar to Bakugo's AP shot, which Deku makes a comment on, which obviously gets on Bakugo's nerves. But what Endeavor is basically saying is that, yeah, during this training, you either have to learn how to release all of your power at once while controlling it, or being able to condense all of that power to a single point, and being able to do this subconsciously as well. And while he's telling this to Bakugo and Shoto, because that's something he talks about, how Shoto's only halfway there, because he's able to do that with his ice, but he cannot do it with his fire yet. So he basically tells Shoto's like, yeah, you have to learn how to do what you do with your ice with your fire side as well. And then he comes over to Deku, and he asks Deku, like, hey, do you already know how to do this subconsciously with your power, with all of your power? And Deku just straight up says, I can do it with my full cowling, but he hasn't been able to do it with Air Force, though. And then this comes into like the third lesson that particularly pertains to Deku, was that, oh, well, first thing you have to do is learn how to use Air Force subconsciously. And it's like, don't worry about your second ability at all. And he's like, and Deku was like trying to understand. It's like, but what are you talking about? Like, we can't like just do something like that secondly subconsciously. Like, we're not able to do that. And here's also shows Endeavor as like a mentor and a teacher. Is like, what are you talking about? Everybody on Earth is able to do something like this subconsciously, and being able to do it parallel with each other, doing multiple tasks. And he makes an example of someone who is yawning while driving. He talks about how with driving, the person in that car had to learn acceleration, braking, steering. And he talks about, yeah, he probably didn't learn that all at once. He probably mastered it one by one. He probably mastered steering, then he mastered acceleration, then he mastered braking. And now because of that repetition, he was able to do it subconsciously and being able to do it, but he also did it one by one. And then he refers this to Deku as like, so what you have to do is, once you master those two things, you have to master them subconsciously. And once you do that, add another one to it, master that one. Add another one to that, master that one. So he basically tells him, like, no matter how strong your ability is, you have to build upon it one by one. And that's basically the reference to the chapter, but it also is a parallel to Endeavor and as well as to All Might. How All Might was able to do all of this all at once because he was just naturally able to do that. While with Deku, he, like, where All Might is exception, what Deku has to learn and realize is that, yes, you got your power, and you thought that you had to learn it instantly because you were falling behind. But the only way that you can truly learn how to master your power is to do it one at a time. And it's like just practicing the same abilities over and over. And he's like, that's one of the only ways you learn. So he basically, last thing he really tells to them is that take the power abilities from your school and take what you've learned from my energy and put them together and make them your own. Which even ties more into Deku and All Might. And even with Bakugo too, and Shoto, that one line ties together with all of them because they all have powers that they thought weren't their own. But now they're learning how to make it their own. Deku is trying to make one for all his own. Shoto making his firepower one his own. Bakugo making his explosions are his, but making them more concise, more specific, so that they can even compete with Endeavor. So, and then tying into like more again, like how he thought about how, even going more into Deku's mind, how like he thought that enrolling, he gained a lot of experience, and that he was just doing this like so fast, so blindly. He wanted to do this as fast as possible, but he then comes to the conclusion that actually I just have to do this one by one. And in correction, how it's actually tied up basically until like the last panel is that Endeavor says, your failures or success, it doesn't have any effect on me because I will work as Endeavor. Meaning that basically he's going to pick up the slack. Why? Not because he wants to, but because that's who he is. So it's very impactful, and it shows Endeavor's character. It shows that he's not like All Might. he is Endeavor, and that's just what he does. So we get into the last panels, or the last page of this chapter, which is apparently a 1 week time skip, which I really was hoping that we would focus more time on that. But what we're going to focus on more is probably more important to me than like seeing their growth, because we get Shoto's older sister, and she's basically talking to Endeavor on the phone. Is like, what? Bakugo and his friends have been working with you? But you know, and she's like, what? Why? I wish I had known about that earlier. I saw it on the news. But hey, I have an idea. Why don't you and them come over? Because we rarely see him anymore. So let's come over and have like a family dinner. I'll cook us up all some good food. So yeah, that's how the chapter ends. It ends with Shoto's sister inviting Endeavor and the children over for dinner, which is great, because when it comes to My Hero, and what I enjoyed about this chapter the most are the interactions between the characters. I wasn't able to get into a lot of it, but there was a lot of interactions that I enjoyed. The interactions between the random heroes and the kids, between Endeavor and how he's a mentor to the children, as well as how Bakugo, Dekugo, and Shoto, how their interactions are with each other and how they flow so naturally with their character. This is what, to me, makes My Hero great. It's not the action scenes, which are important. It's not the character growth and the using and alterations of the tropes that matter. What makes My Hero great is the character interactions, and how each character is real and has a specific interaction with another character. Shoto acts differently with Endeavor than he does with Bakugo, which makes sense because they're two different people. And the same goes for how Deku interacts with Bakugo, and how Bakugo would obviously act with Deku. So all in all, what I enjoyed about this chapter is what I enjoyed about My Hero's the character interactions. And what was even more surprising is how Endeavor himself acted more as not just a hero, but as a mentor, or could I say as a pillar, as the next symbol. Yeah, that's really stretching it, but it does show that he is a good hero and how he can instill his knowledge onto these kids to make them better. But overall, really did enjoy this chapter. Enjoyed the interactions between the children and Endeavor, as well as giving a little bit more character growth for Bakugo, Deku, as well as Endeavor, showing that he is a good hero, even if he isn't the best father. But that's all we can really talk about in this chapter. Sorry that this video is a little bit longer. I've had a little bit of troubles, but hopefully you enjoyed it as well. And hopefully I'll be able to see you next time for My Hero Academia reviews in 2 weeks. Oh boy. But yeah, catch you guys later.